Yeah, so the C word, we got to be careful, right? Because a lot of our clients work with coaches, and we've already joked about the nature of this industry. But yeah, I guess to a large aspect, we are coaching our clients on their numbers, right? And so what I would tell them is when I'm looking at a client's numbers, I'm asking for their labor rate, I'm asking for their head count on it. And what my job is to
You're listening to the Limitless Leadership Podcast, the podcast designed to help automotive repair shops learn how to lead, coach, train, and manage their team better by sharing proven techniques and thought-provoking interviews from industry leaders. Are you ready to transform your leadership skills by tapping into unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results? Let's get ready for liftoff. It's time to go from great to greater. Here's today's episode.
All right, leaders, whether you're running a shop, leading a team, or leveling up in your career, you know details matter. And if you're like me, that includes keeping your beard on point. That's why I trust the Bearded Brotherhood. Their beard oils, beard balms, and mustache waxes, among other, are made with all natural ingredients, no junk, no shortcuts, just top-tier quality that keeps my beard looking sharp and feeling great. And let's talk scents. Whether it's their best-selling Woodsman or my personal favorite, Lone Stranger, the Bearded Brotherhood keeps me smelling fresh and my beard stays soft all day. If you take your beard game seriously, this is the stuff that you need. And because you're part of the Limitless Leadership podcast family, I've got a deal for you. Just visit thebeardedbrotherhood.co/lead15 to grab your favorite products and get 15% off in the process. Because a great leader deserves a great beard. Now, back to today's episode. All right, everyone, welcome back to the Limitless Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Parnell. And before we get started with today's episode, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things you need to on social media to make sure that this episode, among others, helps reach people and build leaders. You know that is what our mission is, to reach people and build leaders. And speaking of leaders, joined by another great leader in the industry today. Our guest today is Hunt Demarest. Hunt. Am I saying your name? Am I saying your last name correctly? First, I should have asked it before.
Close enough.
Oh man,
it's Demarest, but yeah.
Oh, gee, that's not close at all.
No, but you got number two. The most common one. Actually, you probably got number one. The most common one is Demarest. I almost never correct people, even if they say is that right. I usually just say yes. That's why I usually just go by Hunt. It's easier.
Literally, like as I was getting ready to introduce you, I'm like, oh, I didn't even confirm how to pronounce his last name. I also didn't. Live. Yeah, we're doing it live, but I also want to make sure that I'm doing you justice. Go ahead and share with the audience who you are within your company, your title, because that's something I also failed to mention. So I apologize for that. But go ahead and share that with the audience.
So yeah, my company is Paar, Melis and Associates. We've been doing this for 32 years. I personally have not been doing this for 32 years, but Paar, Melis was originally founded helping local auto repair shops and predominantly gas stations with their financials. And over the years, we have gone just even farther into that niche of automotive. And right now, our shop works with around 650 shops on a monthly basis, all across the country, Alaska, Hawaii, you name it. And really, to kind of what we're talking about here today, my firm's job is we're accountants, right? So let's not make this more than what it is. We're doing accounting and tax for automotive repair shops, but we only do automotive repair shops. This is the only thing that we work with. These are the only kind of businesses that we see. And what that allows us to do is allows us to get into a lot deeper in your financials than most accountants can't. Right? Well, what are other shops averaging for their effective labor rate? What are other shops doing for their labor gross profit or rent as a percentage of sales? If you're seeing 3 shops a year, how much can you really help your shops? Whereas a lot of the stuff that we're sharing, and probably similar with you, Josh, is I look smart because I'm sharing stuff that other clients are telling me, right? And I am a student myself. When I talk to my shops, hey, what's working and what's not? And so a lot of that is just being able to have common ground with, shop owners, business owners, and be able to get them to understand the numbers more. If I don't understand your numbers, if I don't understand your business, how can I train you or educate you on your own numbers?
Love that. That's such a good, thanks for sharing that first and foremost, Hunt. And I appreciate the fact that you guys are, you've niched down over the years. What got you into, Paar, Melis to begin with, and specifically, I'm curious what got you guys into this industry? You started at gas stations, and now you've really niched down to automotive repair shops.
Yeah, and so anyone that's local to the DC, Maryland, Virginia area would recognize a company called Marcoin. And so Marcoin was a niche before people did niches. So that was an accounting firm, a local regional firm. And like I said, most of them was in the petroleum business. So gas stations, some distribution and things like that. So Jason Paar and Reed Melis of Paar Melis, they both worked together at Marcoin, had enough of this. We're going to go start our own. And over the years, yeah, it's just really been one of those things that obviously that was kind of our bread and butter. We took other businesses, being a local accounting firm, we said, do we want to take some local landscaping companies and different things like that? And I'm not going to lie to you, I got some random businesses in my book, right? But 99.9% of it is auto repair. And the 0.01% is probably friends and family. And a lot of our clients that used to own shops and now do other things. Mm-hmm. Personally, how did I get into this? I never grew up. I never wanted to do anything on accounting, anything on tax. Still to this day, accounting and tax does not interest me, but what they can allow people to learn, understand, and do what that knowledge does. So overall, I like helping people. I like solving problems. And really probably the biggest kind of segue that makes it a natural progression for me is I am a car guy. If it has four wheels, if it has an engine on it, I'm going to be interested in it. And so for me, a lot of my day-to-day conversations with my clients, obviously they want to call me and talk about accounting and tax, but I connect with a lot of these guys because we're similar in very different ways, right? And I always tell them, like, I can do most of what you guys do. I'm a pretty good mechanic on it. Doing accounting and tax is so much easier and it pays so much better. I'm not sure why we put myself on a pedestal. It's like, guys, I do your job. None of my team member could go and change a head gasket. And I bet you with a day or two, I could train most of your technicians on how to do accounting and tax. But I think that's probably one of the big reasons why we do what we do is like, there's such a mental block on financials. And Paar Melis's goal is to empower shop owners to say, no, this is not something that you hire someone else because you're never going to be able to understand this. You hire someone to help you understand this because this is what you need to be looking at for your business.
It's interesting that you mentioned that you're a car guy. Prior to us going live, I shared with you that I'm really not a car guy. But I will say, Hunt, I went to you guys' website, and I see that you and Jason are both standing next to some exotic vehicles. I see you're standing next to a Porsche, which, by the way, is my dream car, a Porsche 911, or more specifically, a Porsche 930 back in the day, a vintage. But so I would say I'm not a car guy, but I am a Porsche guy, and I'm manifesting it. It's going to happen one of these days.
There you go.
But I think that's great. Well, one of the things that I wanted to do with you specifically, Hunt, is highlight and honor you and what you're presenting at this year's Ratchet and Wrench Management Conference in Glendale, Arizona. That's coming up October 8th through the 10th this year at the Renaissance Phoenix Glendale Resort. And what you're speaking on, your topic is mastering your numbers, how accurate financials drive profit and growth. And so I'm going to read through your description.
I was about to say, you got to give me the full thing so we can really get people confused on how he's going to do all this in an hour. But
yeah, so I'm going to read through your entire description, and then you can talk about what this means, what an attendee can expect from your session. But in this session, it says Hunt will break down why accurate monthly financials are essential for shop owners and how to use them to improve cash flow, set the right pricing, track KPIs, and make better business decisions. You'll learn how to read and interpret your financial reports, spot issues before they become big problems, and understand what the numbers are really telling you. We'll also cover how to structure your financials properly to maximize tax savings, secure financing, and even prepare for a future sale. Now, that is a lot of information in a 1 hour time slot, but talk about what this session is going to bring to an attendee who's going to be at the conference.
Yeah, so first and foremost, anyone that has not been to the Ratchet and Wrench conference, I've not been to the one since they've moved it to Glendale. I have been years ago. I don't think I can say enough. It is a really, really good conference. If people look at it, it's definitely, on the smaller side of it. But as far as quality and the kind of speakers that they have there, and I'm not talking about myself, right? It is a really, really good time. Also, the cool thing about it is I like it is like, hey, they give us an hour, right? And so if you're going to sit down, you're going to take this class for an hour, there's probably not going to be a whole lot of Q&A, right? We got a lot of stuff to talk about here. But I also think that, again, just like financials and tax, I probably made that description a little bit overcomplicated because it all comes down to one core idea. You can't improve what you don't measure, right? Or you can't improve what you don't understand.
Yep.
And I hear people say that all the time. Oh, I need to improve my profit. What's your profit? I'm not sure. Okay, well then tell me, really, like think about that right now. I want to improve my profit, but you don't know what your profit is. So if I show you a profit number, I say, is this higher or lower than what you're making right now? What you're going to say is, I think that's more, or I think that's less. Really, the whole reason I brought this class up is that topic right there is probably the issue to 50% of people that don't understand their financials. They have a perception of how much they make, how much they profit, what their gross profit is, and they trust that gut feeling a lot more than what the numbers show on the page. And if the numbers on the page are different than that gut feeling, they don't say, hey, maybe I need to go back and I need to, adjust my expectations. Maybe I need to go understand why that number is different. They throw it out the window because they say, no, that's not right. My accountant's an idiot. Something got double counted. But I think if you see anything on this, people do not want to do something that they're not good with. People don't enjoy stuff that is challenging for them. And if you want to do even a broader look at this, look at finances in general, right? People have been taught a really, really unhealthy view of finances. If you grew up with no money, it's going to be kind of a touchy subject. You talk about money and you get nervous, right? Because you know the struggles. Even in your own business, right? How many of my clients started as a side job that turned into a shop, that turned into a service advisor, that turned into 3 locations? A lot of these guys aren't classically trained in financials. How many times have you heard, I'm good at fixing cars, I'm not good at running a business?
Yeah, all the time.
That is where my team comes in, right? Hey, you weren't trained with QuickBooks in your hand, right? You maybe have never heard of QuickBooks till you hired my team. But what I'm here to show you is if you can run a shop, if you can do all of this stuff, you already have the ability to do your own financials. What I need to do is be able to sharpen those skills and hopefully give you the interest. Because once people realize what's on the other side of this, oh man, that extra 5-10% of profit doesn't come unless I know what this is. And it doesn't come unless I start comparing my shop management system to my financials on this, that interest level comes. The ultimate goal here, and that description is probably a little bit backwards. When I see most people's financials, it's hard for me to make heads and tails of those financials. I look at numbers all day, every day, right? And if an accountant can't look at your numbers and make heads and tails of it, how do you expect yourself that has no accounting training understand those numbers? I tell shops all the time, you're beating yourself up. Of course you don't understand your books. Of course you don't understand your numbers. They're not set up in a way that will allow you to understand that. So first thing that we need to do is we need to set these numbers up in a way that you guys are used to, right? You guys are used to looking at sales, parts, labor, shop supplies, sublet, right? You're used to comparing those numbers in gross profit, just like you're doing on your shop management system. So once we can turn these financials into a burden, something that we're just doing for taxes, something that your bookkeeper is doing, to a real check and balance to what your guys doing on a day-to-day basis, you know how what financials are supposed to do, right? You're living and dying off your shop management software. Your financials, your QuickBooks generally is going to be your check and balance on that. And that's the cycle. Hey, every single day we got goals. We're going to look at our shop management system. We're now going to have an expectation at the end of the month based on what we saw in that shop management system. Hey, we exceeded all of the goals that we met for this area. The financials should look good. The financials look good. You move on to the next month, right? So not only kind of talking to shop owners about the beginning stages, because the hard part about doing any financial class is I'm either going to lose people in the first part of the class or lose them in the second. I'm never going to be able to do a...
Why is that? Why is that?
Because when people sign up for a financial class, there's people that want to sharpen their skills and there's people that know these are skills that they need to learn.
Gotcha. Okay.
And also, again, and that's where whenever I talk about these classes, I did actually just do one at Vision that was called Advanced Financials because they asked me for 5 or 6 years, so I finally did it. But again, I really try to shy away from this because I think that the core principles of accounting can be used for the very basic level. And you see guys that are doing this all day, every day, right? People that work for me, they're using those same basic principles. They've just done it more, right? And so to come and try to say, oh, this is not something you should be doing, oh, you'll never understand it, like I've heard other people say, I don't feel like that could be farther from the truth.
Hunt, what I'm hearing you say is you're kind of acting as a actual financial coach for your clients. Is that fair to say? And if so, how often are you meeting with your clients? Like if I'm a prospective client of yours, how often am I meeting with you in a monthly basis or
Yep.
a semi-annual basis? And then what does it look like from a client perspective?
Yeah, so the C word, the coaching word, we got to be careful, right? Because a lot of our clients work with coaches, and we've already joked about the nature of this industry, but really of where I guess to a large aspect, we are coaching our clients on their numbers, right? And so what I would tell them is when I'm looking at a client's numbers, I'm asking for their labor rate, I'm asking for their head count on it. And what my job is to maybe highlight something that they weren't aware of, like productivity. Generally, if I highlight something like productivity, it should not be news to my client that they have a productivity issue. They did not know how to quantify that or how much lost opportunity, right? And so when I go from the financial aspect, how could I see pain points of a shop without ever stepping in the shop? I'm trying to show my clients you can triage a lot of this without even looking in the shop, right? Now, how to fix that productivity, how to have a pay plan, how to motivate your team on, I'm not going to help with any of that stuff.
You
Right.
send them to me. You send them to me,
Yes,
Hunt. If that's the case, tell them to come find me.
but truly, right? I mean, if you look at a good shop, I mean, a good shop doesn't just have an account that they trust for everything, right? If you have a shop and you only trust your account for every decision on it, you're going to get a certain kind of shop. Same thing if you only trust your lawyer. Same thing if you only trust your coach.
Yeah.
Most of these good shops are working with a number of different people because you have different inputs on this.
Okay, so let's say I'm a technician, because a lot of our shop owners are former technicians.
Yep.
And they jump into this terrifying world of entrepreneurship, of business ownership, and they're a great tech, but they don't necessarily know how to lead people or how to manage their finances.
Yep.
What's the early advice you'd be giving to someone who is making this move and considering your services?
Yeah, so let's kind of go to a client journey because I kind of ignored part of your conversation of how we work in with shops. So one of the things that we said before about my class is we have a system that works where we are looking at the books, talking to our clients throughout the year. The reason that we do that is a couple of different reasons, right? One aspect of this is just in a financial sense of we need to be looking at these numbers to make sure that you are actually looking at accurate numbers, right? If you're going off of your books to think you're accurate all year on it, you are making assumptions and probably making changes. And if the numbers are wrong, you're making the wrong decision and the wrong changes, right? So that's first and foremost. But honestly, what a lot of people are getting that they are not asking for is we are an extra set of eyes on this. Most of the time, the stuff that we are changing or stuff that we are adjusting or stuff that we are fixing is because we're working with you on a monthly basis. We kind of know where your bookkeeper likes to put stuff, and we are going in behind the scenes to say, hey, I know that you think you're having a killer year on this. Your inventory is at 60,000 on your balance sheet. You haven't even asked me about that. I know your shop. I deal with shops all the time on it. A shop of your size maybe has 10,000 in inventory, right? And so there's some things that we can look at that we are going to be able to go back and address with our clients without them even asking us because we only deal with shops. But a lot of times when we have our, it depends on what we're doing. But if our shop is doing their own books or they have their own bookkeeper, we say, hey, do your day-to-day, put stuff in there. If you don't know where to put it, throw it to Ask My Accountant. That allows our clients to do what they need to do to close out their books. Now, when they have time, maybe later that day or later in that week, they give one of my team members a call and say, hey, I had this guy came in, they pay with the credit card declined. They came and paid with me a check. It looks like this guy has a credit on his account. He doesn't have a credit, right? You could spend the next 6-8 hours going through that or, guessing on it. We see this stuff all the time, every day, right? So pick up the phone. And then once either we've reconciled the books and closed them out or our clients has reconciled them and we've then reviewed them, giving our clients monthly financials that, like I said, they can understand, and then also giving them some report cards and reports that really break it down to say, hey, these are the key numbers. Here's how you stack up to where you were last year, year to date. We also benchmark all of our clients to say, hey, how do your KPIs match up to all of the other clients, top shops, and a number of different things on there.
How often do you guys actually meet with the bookkeepers rather than the shop owner themselves? Is that something you guys do?
Yeah, and so that's a tricky part of our business, right? Is like, who is my client for my shop depends on how they're set up. Like, I have a couple shops on there where if you ask any of my team members, they say, hey, who runs Josh's shop? They're going to say your bookkeeper, because we do everything through the bookkeeper, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's also even trickier because a lot of times the bookkeeper is the spouse. But a lot
Yeah.
of times we have a different relationship on different levels, right? If we have a client that has a bookkeeper, we probably are going to be talking to most frequently the bookkeeper. The bookkeeper might like Paar Melis the most because we make them look good because we're helping them with their issues that they've never had a resource to go to in the past. Now, I'm not going to be talking to the bookkeeper about improving, profit on labor, right? I'm not going to be talking to the bookkeeper about tax planning or anything like that. And so other aspects of this, I'm going to say, hey, I need to talk to the boss man about his taxes. But honestly, a lot of times we're going through the bookkeeper for a lot of this. You guys are busy, right? Shop owners are busy. Shop owners have stuff that's going on. So great. If you want to delegate this stuff, then fine. But I also won't let people delegate this too much, right? Hey, if you want to give someone ultimate control on that, then fine. One of the classes that I teach is also fraud prevention and things like that. So separation of duties also goes into my team, right? Hey, we have a lot of conversation with the bookkeeper. Owner needs to be in the same page of that, right? The same flip side, though, sometimes I need to remind my clients is, hey, we had this great conversation, Josh, right? And you want to change all these stuff on your financials. You've never opened QuickBooks. You don't touch this. We need to make sure that the bookkeeper's on the same page, because what you're asking is probably going to put another 10, 12 hours of work on her plate, right? And so sometimes we can be the middle ground on it, but really it's, depending on who you are in my company or what we're trying to do, probably working with, 3 to 4 people in most shops.
Gotcha. It's funny. I can relate to the fine line that you're walking between someone wanting to delegate enough or too much. Ironically, the topic of conversation I'm going to be speaking at the conference is on communication and the roadmap of delegation. And what I find is sometimes, not often, but sometimes, a client, we're talking about delegation and delegating accordingly and making sure that you're staying in the coach's seat rather than being the player. And sometimes I find that they may want to dump rather than delegate. And we talk about the difference between delegating and dumping. So I can understand what you're sharing and why that's a topic of conversation.
Well, especially for that, right? It's like, how could it be delegating if you're not tracking these numbers, right? Like at some point, these guys have moved off the counter, right? And I would argue if you're not looking at your at least shop management system and ultimately your financials, you just dump that, right? Are you really going and seeing if they're pricing this stuff? Are you seeing if they're using the matrices? And how many of these guys have realized once they finally went back and did an audit of, well, hey, the reason my numbers are off and my parts gross profit stunk is my matrix was good, but this knucklehead was overriding everything. And I just never inspected it.
Yeah. What you inspect what you expect, and what gets measured gets managed, or in your words, you can't improve what you don't understand, which I think is spot on. A lot of this is, these little quips or one-liners is certainly leadership focused, management, leadership, training, coaching. These are topics that I often work with my own clients on. It is a leadership podcast, Hunt. I'll go ahead and ask you, what does leadership mean to you?
Leadership. Oh man, that's a hard one. There's probably a deeper answer to this, but I think communication and making sure that you are communicating to your team on wins and losses. Sometimes depending on who they are, they like to communicate one, not the other one. So I think that's a big part. And then another one is your vision, right? People want to work with someone that they think is, a good leader, right? That has some direction to this. And I see a lot of people that have a really good vision and they don't let their team in on it, and they kind of derail the entire part.
So I'll ask you, because and I'm probably I know I'm putting you on the spot here. I didn't share with you that I was going to get into some leadership focused questions, but I'll ask you because I like that you talked about casting a vision and really providing that clear why, because ultimately we know that when the why is clear, the how is easy. But man, I work with so many shops who don't understand the why, and it's because their shop owner hasn't clearly laid out the why. They haven't clearly cast the vision. And so there's so many folks in a small shop who are operating in silos because there's a lack of clarity and direction. If I were to put you on the spot, Hunt, and ask you, how does a shop owner cast a clear vision? How would you answer that question?
Most of it is just having the hard conversations that they don't want to have. Right? It's the conversation that they're avoiding, right? You got that technician that is really productive, but they have a terrible attitude. but you don't want to get rid of them because you're afraid of what the production is going to cost, right? Every single shop owner that has got rid of that person has ended up, or had that conversation of like, hey, what is going on here? Maybe there's more behind this that we can figure out. The biggest thing that I get on this is, I'm talking to mostly, like you said before, either the owner of the business, the boss of the business, the bookkeeper. I'm never talking to the actual doers. A lot of times when we come up with productivity on it, they say, oh, Hunt, right? That's below their goal, right? I'm not sure. They haven't hit their goal yet. And my first question, because when I first started doing this, I never asked this because I didn't understand kind of the mentality of some of these guys. But now I know it. So I said, what did they say when you shared that goal with them? Did they say it was impossible, possible? Well, I haven't told them. Well, not in that many. So it turns out I'm like, so you have an hours goal for these guys, right? In your head, that every single week you are getting bent out of shape because they are not hitting it. How do you ever expect them to hit a goal that they're not aware of? Well, I know, and that's kind of a shop owner in a nutshell from a lot of what I've seen.
Hunt, if you were a fly on the wall of my conversations, the bulk of my clients are actually service managers. They're the doers, right? So they're either service managers or lead technicians or lead mechanical specialists, as our friend Carm would call them. And I do work with some shop owners, but I agree with you. Communication is the biggest opportunity area. And we know that when there's a breakdown in communication, voids do tend to get created, and oftentimes negativity fills those voids. A stat that I share with every shop owner is that poor communication is actually costing your business 18% of total salaries being paid out on an annual basis. So to put that into perspective, if a shop owner is paying $1 million per year in salaries across the entire shop, poor communication could be creating sunk cost in the amount of $180,000. So
I'd argue it's much more.
Which is and it's quite possible. And I'll tell you, having worked with so many shops, especially in a one-on-one format the last couple of years, I think your argument would be valid. It's amazing how literally every single shop, the biggest challenge across the board is communication. Used to, I'd say, well, communication is top 3 in challenges for every shop. But I can safely say, and with confidence, communication is the biggest challenge across every shop. Nowadays, which is sad, and it's really a major opportunity area that hopefully we're able to close that gap as time goes by.
But think about how you used to be able to run a shop, right? You had to communicate with people, right? Because there wasn't a systems, there wasn't electronic ordering. Just look at parts, right? You had to call someone up, or I guess some guys were faxing it in, right? But again, you're communicating on this. And the reason why I say it's probably costing people more money, so we benchmark all of our numbers. And obviously everyone's chasing, how do I improve my profit? There is only one other number that is actually connected to profit. Labor rate has nothing to do with it. Labor GP, parts GP, total sales, none of those had a direct relation to overall profit other than productivity. So if you have good productivity, you are a profitable shop. If you have bad productivity, you're probably not. And that line was about as linear as what you're looking to get. And that's where I go back to what you said is, hey, if productivity is the number one issue to profitability, I feel that communication is the number one hindrance to productivity. Where again, you're going back to we have an output, right? And we're looking at profit. Why is this profit good or bad of what it is? And if it comes down to it, right, we're selling people, we're selling labor.
Hunt, you're onto something, man. I like that. I like that a lot.
The hard part is the hardest one to fix, right?
You're right though. But ultimately, what I believe is that when the leader gets better, everyone gets better, and this is why we talk about it. This is why I'm in business, quite frankly. And so, I'll ask you. So, one of the questions I love to ask every guest on this podcast. I'm going to put you on the spot again, but I'll ask you, Hunt. What is the best advice you've ever received from a coach or a mentor?
Oh, so the best advice I ever got, and this is, I'm not sure if this is, I should probably share one that's more charitable or more wisdom or something. But actually this guy, Charlie, he's not a coach. He was just a colleague. He worked at another accounting firm. I met him years and years ago, probably 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when I first started doing this. And I was young, hungry, right? I'm going to do whatever I want. And, at that point, you never have any idea of burning out. And so he gave me one quote. He said, Hunt, everyone burns out. You'd rather be burnt out and rich than burnt out and broke. And so that has really stuck with me because then I see this. I'm young, right? And so most of the people I'm working with are older than me. And a lot of the advice that I get and I give, right, that's a two-way street on it. But I think that that's the best piece of advice because, again, I have shop owners that are 60 years old. The stuff that we're talking about, the motivation, the fire, it's just not there, right? They are burnt out. They do not have it in them, right? And we see some of these kids that are 24 years old that come in here and are just blowing the doors off of people, right? That is not training. That is not experience. If anything, it's the opposite on this. But again, like that motivation, that fire, if you have it, use it, right? And again, you don't need to be that smart. If you're going to work really hard, you can make a lot of money in this industry, right? But at some point, you're going to get burned out and you're going to have to work smarter, not harder, if you want to continue on.
Preach, man. I think that's very well said. Hunt, a lot of the information you shared today was great. I'm looking forward to hopefully attending your session at the conference. I think there's a possibility that you and I are actually speaking at the same time. I need to confirm that.
A little bit of competitors here. Uh-oh.
No, hey, it's collaboration, my friend. Collaboration.
We'll knock the wall down. Really
there you
confusing.
Go. I like it. I mean, you're talking about the information that you just shared. I'll be talking about communication. I'm sure there's some overlap there as we discussed in the podcast. But speaking of podcast, you have your own podcast as well. So you're part of the Remarkable Results Radio Network with Carm Capriato, and your podcast is Business by the Numbers. Talk to the audience about that, about your podcast, and when does it air, and what can they expect if they're tuning in?
Yeah, so Business by the Numbers, we are on episode 175. Been doing this for over 3 years now. And what do I talk about? So I talk about what I find interesting and what I think that you as a shop owner are already wondering or should be wondering. And really my overall idea is just like you heard on here, right? I don't like to overcomplicate matters. Some of the stuff I do is current events, right? Hey, you've talked about whatever, inflation. You've heard about that on the news. Here is what that really means. You've probably never had someone explain this to you. And then more specifically, how does this translate to what you're seeing in your shop with either your team or your customers? But really, I mean, the big thing on it, and this goes back to, our core principle for our firm is education, right? If you want to go back, there's 175 episodes on that. There's hours and hours. There's weeks and months of information. I'm sharing this information. I feel like that it's my job, right, to give back to this industry and say, hey, this is not something I'm going to keep inside. If someone else is wondering it, if I have a shop asking it, what an awesome platform to be able to go out. And I have people email me. Were you talking about me, right? When you're talking about the disgruntled third generation that's dad won't sell the shop to him? No, unfortunately, I'm not talking about you because I got 5 or 6 other shops like that.
Yeah.
But like we were talking, it's a very small industry, right? If you want to put down 5 to 10 pain points on there, they change depending on the quarters and stuff like that. But again, kind of sharing wins, sharing losses on this, and hopefully educating people along the way.
Hunt, I gotta say, man, I love your abundance mentality. I can't really preach and speak on that enough. It is about collaboration and not competition. There's so much to go around. There's so many great trainers, speakers, podcasters in the industry like yourself. And if you're listening and you're considering heading out to Glendale, Arizona, October 8th through the 10th for the Ratchet and Wrench Management Conference, I would highly encourage you to book that ticket, come to the conference, come and hear Hunt speak on the information that he shared today. My last question to you, Hunt, is if I'm a shop owner and I'm considering your services, how can I get in touch with you and Paar, Melis & Associates?
So easiest way to get a hold of us is parmelis.com. That's with 2 A's on there. Reach out. And the biggest thing is I always tell people I'm probably a bad salesperson, but if you're listening to this, if you listen to my podcast and you're saying, hey, this is not something that my accountant is giving me, am I saying that I'm the only one out there that you can get this from? No, I feel like that we're the best. We've been doing this the longest and we can do this with our eyes closed. But really what this is there are a ton of good accounts out there. If you're with a bad one that you can't go back and ask these basic questions on this, then you need to make a switch. Because again, whether you know it or not, it is costing you money.
I like that. At the very least, it wouldn't hurt to jump on a call with Hunt, and he can have a discovery call with you, and you guys can make that decision to move forward or not.
We do free tax reviews.
Say it again. Free tax reviews.
Yeah. So if you're sitting here and I'll give you an honest answer on this. So I usually have people that send over last year's tax returns on this, and I'll say one of 3 things. Hey, pretty well prepared return. Opposite end of the spectrum is, we are going to have to amend this. Either we or someone else. Mm-hmm. Now, I generally don't amend this if they make a error in your favor. Well, I tell you, I said, hey, they messed up, but if we want to amend this, it's going to cost you money. I haven't had a shop owner take me up on that offer. Last year, we saved someone 80 grand.
Wow.
Again, very uncommon on it, but there are some people out there just doing really bad work on this.
Yeah.
Where it kind of goes in between on this is kind of highlights a lot of what we do. Hey, how they did the tax return is probably overall accurate, but with a little bit of planning and foresight, if we would have seen this last summer, we probably could have saved you 6 or 8,000. So a lot of this again is, hey, right or wrong, black and white, sure, but how we do this stuff, when we do this, and specifically for the automotive industry is really where it's more important.
Hey man, I'm not a shop owner, but you might be converting me into a client. I mean, that's you're saving someone 80 grand. That's pretty incredible. Well, Hunt, man, thanks for being here again. Looking forward to meeting you in person at the conference this October. Any parting words of wisdom for the audience before we sign off?
It all starts somewhere, right? You're not going to be an expert overnight. Start with baby steps, and the rest will come from there.
Excellent. Well, thank you, man, for tuning in, Hunt. I appreciate you for being here. Thanks for being here. Thank you, the listener, for tuning in. I'm all mixed up with my words today, but have a great day, everyone. Don't forget to smile today. Tell your loved ones how much they mean to you. I'm Josh Parnell, reminding you to keep leading well.